Kansas City, have we had a good time today? All right, on the count of 3, I want you to yell at me, what is the best thing you've experienced so far today? Ready? Think about it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I agree. I was here for most of that as well. All right. Well, again, we've said it all weekend. We're going to say it one more time here. Our last panel of the day here. Hi, Mr. Speaker Man. You want to shut up for a second? Thank you. So, guys, thank you again for choosing to spend your weekend with us here at Planet Comicon. This events like this, don't happen without each and every one of you guys showing up, buying a ticket, buying stuff from our merchants, meeting our celebrity guests, getting the photos, autographs, the professional photos, all of that. It all happens because you guys continue to show up year after year. So thank you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause for choosing to spend your weekend with us here. All right, well, let's bring up our next 2 guests. What do you say? You guys, any Watchmen fans? 1 or 2? Okay, all right. Well, then please help me welcome to the stage Malin Åkerman and Carla Gugino. Come on up.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Hi. Oh, it's on.
So,
It's a
guys,
very
if
cushy
you,
couch.
it is nice.
Okay. I see what they were saying, that we could just sort of fall.
Yes, it is a nice couch, if you like that sort of thing. All right. So, guys, this, again, if you've not been in here yet today, this is a Q&A, which means you guys have questions. They will provide what answers they can. The stuff they can't tell you, they'll just make up on the fly, and one of you will post it online within the hour, I'm sure. So, good job, Kansas City. No, the microphone's right over here. We have a spotlight on that. If you guys have a question, feel free to get up, walk over to the microphone. Yeah, we'll line you guys up, and we'll get through as many of your questions as we can in the short time that we have together. If you have mobility issues, if that thing's way too intimidating, it's going to get worse, because I will bring you a microphone if you want to participate. So just flag me down. If I see a hand waving, I'll come to you with a microphone, and we'll let you participate that way if that's what's best for you. Cool. Any questions? All right, well, let's get right to it then. As they're thinking of questions, ladies, let's chat for a bit. So talk to us a little bit about your experience on Watchmen, because it's an interesting dynamic that the 2 of you have, playing mother and daughter, playing 2 very different approaches to what that means as a superhero. So talk to us a little bit about your time on set with the rest of the crew, with, Mr. Snyder. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys found the characters for those specific parts.
Well, sorry, I'm losing my voice, guys. It's been a big day. When I heard that Carla was going to play my mother, well, wait a second. And they go, oh, right, she goes from young Silk Spectre to, an older version, which was so fun to watch the aging process, and the makeup and prosthetics were incredible on this film. Jeffrey Dean Morgan had to sit in prosthetics sometimes from 2:30 a.m. until about 8 a.m. and then go to set for 15 hours.
He was not happy.
He's not happy. I wouldn't be either, to be honest.
Exactly. He was happy on the movie, but not in that chair.
Exactly. But we really, Carla and I became best friends since then. We've kept the friendship going. It was really just, on a personal level, just a really beautiful bonding moment, and we shared a lot of stories about our own mothers and our own experiences, and drew from that a little bit for our bond that we were trying to figure out. And I think, it's, following in your mother's footsteps, it comes with a lot of complexities. Yeah. So we were trying to dive into that a lot and work together to find those things and bring them to life. Really.
Yeah, it was really a special thing. Funnily enough, as we know, there's one thing leads to another, and we had both been on Entourage, and our dear mutual friend Emmanuelle Chriqui, who's a wonderful actress who played Sloane on Entourage, had said when Malin was cast in the movie, and then I was Zack and Debbie, Zack Snyder and Debbie, his wife, who's his producer, had been fans of Entourage, and that was sort of, I think, how it came my way. And Malin was already cast, and when I told Emmanuelle, she said, "Oh my God, you guys are going to be the best of friends." And it was very prophetic and very true. But it was something about, I think Alan Moore, with this graphic novel, he was so as you all know who are fans of it, it is so complex. It pulls no punches. It is not for the faint of heart. And so therefore, he really does explore the light and the dark. And so for us, it was, I think, always relationships with mothers and daughters are extremely intimate and extremely complex and contradictory and all of those things. So it was really cool for us to kind of build that together.
Yeah, to your point, for a long time, that was the impossible to film. So yeah, yes, I can imagine it was a daunting task to try to stay faithful and yet find yourselves in these characters. Let's go to our friends on the floor. Hello, what is your name? Sam? Can we, yeah, thank you. Is it off? I'll come to you, Sam. Just stay right there, bud. ASL interpreter.
You're very
Look out.
mysterious, Sam.
All right, Sam.
He's like a detective.
Hello. All right, Sam, what is your question?
What did you do to prepare for your role? And like, did you read the graphic novel?
Yeah, boot camp for 3 months, which at first I hated. That first week I couldn't move. I couldn't even wipe my own butt. Guys, I'm not kidding. Couldn't move that way. Sorry, TMI. But the physical aspect of it was really challenging, but also wonderful. And then, of course, the background, and yes, did read the graphic novel for sure to try to get some background and information. The interesting thing is if any of you have seen the big book, there's all these descriptions and beautiful layouts of each character. But for Silk Spectre #2, there was half a page. So there was a lot to kind of be made up. And so I think, again, we turned to each other and tried to figure out our background and our bases and what that would look like to kind of fill in the gaps. But I think anytime you play a character, the only way to make it unique and still respecting the material is to bring a bit of your own essence into it. And you always hope that the director has chosen you because he has seen some of that essence. So it's an amalgam of all that.
Yeah, I think for Sally Jupiter, I was really, just for me, thinking about a woman who hit her prime at a very young age and wasn't able to gracefully find her way forward, and that her daughter, while she loved her so tremendously, brought all of those insecurities up for her. And so for me, it was, Malin really had a huge amount of stunt work to do, and Silk Spectre really required that. For me, it was more, Jeffrey Dean Morgan and I had the fight scene, so I had a couple of, stunt rehearsals and things like that, but it was much more for me about figuring out that emotional journey and trying to figure out how this young woman could, that many years later, become who she does and sort of build that internally. So it was a really cool exploration, and we also had, it was such an incredible ensemble, Patrick Wilson, Billy Crudup, Jeffrey, as we spoke about, Jackie Earle Haley. Yeah, it was just such a great group of actors who all wanted to dig as deep as we possibly could. It was very simpatico in that way. And Zack is so visual, and he's so exquisite visually, and he also is so inspired by actors, but he really does allow you to kind of find your way, and Matthew Good. Yeah, we did such a great, yeah.
Well, also Zack Snyder has, notebooks and notebooks. He makes his own comics, so his stage directions are all drawn. I've never seen anything quite like it. Every scene he visualizes and he draws it. So when you ask him a question, he goes, well, this is what I'm thinking, and he shows you a whole comic book of his own, of the scenes and how the cameras are going to shoot you in different angles. I mean, it's phenomenal. I've never worked with anyone quite like him.
It's a very different version of storyboarding in a very cool way.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. Hi. What's your name?
Hi, my name's Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
I was wondering, first for Carla, if you have a favorite Edgar Allan Poe story or poem, and for both of you, if you have read any other graphic novels or novels that, in the past few years that you've thought, I'd really love to be in a film or TV version of this text.
Well, to your first question, I think The Telltale Heart was the one I read the earliest, and so it always has remained very. It retains a very special place for me because I was young enough. I think I was probably maybe 10 or 11 at the time, that I got a sense of what guilt was. I sort of the idea that you had done something wrong and that it was going to eat away at you until you reconciled it or looked at it. And that was such a big concept for me as a young kid. But it did what great writing can do, which is make you have these feelings that you didn't know you could have, or recognize a feeling that you didn't understand yet. So for me, I think Telltale Heart will always remain that. The Fall of the House of Usher, I think, is an extraordinary story, and so that was one that I kind of came to later, before we did the show, obviously, but later in my life. And in terms of a graphic novel recently, it's funny, my way to graphic novels has been through projects. And so it's not something that I'm not really facile in terms of what, that's just not ever been a part of my life, other than, like, when I did Sin City, then I ended up becoming familiar with Frank Miller's work. And so at every turn, I'm like, I should be reading more, so maybe you can tell me what I should be reading.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. I'm not, it always is a venture through the work that we do. There's a lot of reading in the interim of scripts, and I'm more of a self-help book kind of gal, because I grew up thinking I was going to become a psychologist. I studied that at school, and it took a wild turn. So I'm always reading a lot of that stuff. But there are lots of articles and novels that I love that I would like to see turn into a television show. One of them is Veronica Decides to Die by Paulo Coelho. It's a lovely, lovely book. It's one of my favorites, and has a beautiful message just on how powerful our minds are. But anyway, yeah, so unfortunately, my son just started reading MAGA, which is really cool, so I'm hoping to learn a bit through him. He's sort of introducing me into that world, so maybe next year I'll have more for you.
Sure. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Hi, come on up. What is your name?
My name is Heather,
Hi, Heather.
and let me just say I love The Watchmen. It's one of my favorite comic book movies ever. And I have one question for each of you. So, Carla, you have been in a lot of Mike Flanagan's projects, including The Fall of the House of Usher, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Haunting of Hill House, all of which are based on like classic like horror books and works. If you had a choice to work with you probably still work with Mike Flanagan, I don't know. But if you had a choice of like a particular story or like horror to adapt with a director next, what would it be? And also, Malin, you were a presenter last year for the Eurovision Song Contest in Sweden.
Yep.
What was that process like? I know that Eurovision is kind of big and comprehensive and absolutely wild.
I feel like you should answer. I feel like you should answer that first. How cool is that, right?
Well, there's a lot of people who probably don't know, and maybe some of you do. That's awesome. I think it's a very European thing, Eurovision. I grew up with it, where every country competes within their own country, and they choose a winner, and then everyone comes together. And I think it's like 200 million viewers live, no pressure. And it was a really crazy year last year because of the turmoil in the world. So we got there, and there was a lot of nerves going on and a lot of conflict within, the buildings, and we had 15 snipers around and just making sure that we were safe. And so it was really, really crazy. I didn't leave the building for the whole week, and what I didn't realize was we were in this big arena, and it seats 9,000 people, and there were 3 shows. There were 2 semifinals and 1 final, and for each show we did 3 rehearsals and 1 show. But they sold tickets to all the rehearsals. So we're doing live shows for 9,000 people. So we did 12 shows in 6 days, which was nuts and so much fun. I would absolutely do it again in like 5 years. It's like giving birth to a child where you're like, it hurts so bad, I don't think I ever want to do that again. And then 5 years later, you forget. But it was so, so much fun. And for me, such an honor growing up with that. I think that was the most proud moment that my family ever had, because they're all still back in Sweden. And so it was really beautiful. But yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, that is crazy, bananas. And you are so, yeah. Anyway, it was they couldn't have had anyone better than you. Seriously, I am being totally objective. In terms of. Well, the thing, if you bring up Mike, the thing is, he is so, horror is in his veins. So for him, and in the way that I mean that, not because it's something that's, a genre that's very popular or this or that, it's just that he can tell very human, very intimate, very personal stories through horror in a way that I think is incredibly specific to him. There's obviously many great horror directors, but he is just somebody who brings a humanity to it that really resonates with me. So I wouldn't even presume probably to bring something to him because he's so knowledgeable in that regard. But yes, I would love to work. The collaboration with him is one of the most fulfilling things that I have gotten to do as an artist. One thing I just love. I always am looking for. I want to play I really think one with witches is something that I'm very interested in because I think witches culturally are so fascinating, and what people historically have deemed women with a lot, with all the things that women bring along with them have been called witches and not witches. There's just a lot to explore there, so that's something that's always been very interesting to me.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you, Heather. I don't know if she did this on purpose, but Heather did not mention the one scene that we're all trying to block out still, the degloving scene. Can you talk to us about that process?
In Gerald's game,
Yes.
yes. Oh boy. Well, I will say a funny thing on that note is that they were two things. One is when that premiered at Fantastic Fest in Austin, we were having this screening, and this huge male journalist dude fainted during that scene. Yeah. He got completely, he was like, tried to get up because he was freaking out, and then he fainted. So basically it definitely did what it was supposed to do. But also what was so wild was they were so careful. Mike and everybody, the entire crew was so careful about, because I was handcuffed so much of that movie, and they were really worried about how it would be for my wrists and not getting bruised, and so they couldn't have taken better care of me. But what we hadn't accounted for was the headboard, which was from a previous film of his, as there's all sorts of Easter eggs in there. Does someone want to say what movie it was from? I'm sure someone knows. No? The headboard? Huh? Exactly. Yes. Oculus. So, in any case, but it was really not smooth and not meant to be a headboard, and so I ended up with bruises all over my back. Not anyone's fault, but it was that movie was an extraordinary film, and that sequence was really crazy to do. Really crazy.
I can imagine. Yeah, it was crazy to watch. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Evie.
Hi, Evie.
I had a question for Carla. So, working with Mike Flanagan's whole crew, as an actor, how easy or difficult is it to work with the same actors over and over again with completely different relationships as characters? Like, it completely shifts from one project to another. So, how does that work as an actor?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It makes it exponentially easier, actually, because I think most of the actors that he gravitates towards tend to be transformational actors and people who are really wanting to. I think most often you are. I am so appreciative when a director goes, oh, okay, we did that thing together. Now let's do something entirely different. So it's not at all about doing the same thing, and it's this sort of idea of jumping into a new abyss together. But when you jump into an abyss creatively, it's very scary. So to know that you can trust each other in that is hugely helpful. But I do feel really grateful, certainly to Mike for that, and he brings together such a great troupe of actors. Robert Rodriguez also, when I did the Spy Kids films and played, thanks guys, and played the mom in Spy Kids, then he offered me the role of Lucille in Sin City, and obviously they could not be more different characters. And it was the entire crew of Spy Kids when we shot Sin City. So I was like, great, I was the mom, and now I am the topless lesbian parole officer. Hello, everybody. I know you all so well. You are like family. So that was a really interesting transition. But I so appreciated that, again, that he was, sort of gave me this entirely new challenge. And same with Zack Snyder in Sucker Punch and Watchmen. So I just, it's such a gift when a director believes in you that you can just sort of, do anything, and so trust of, and I think he feels that about all of his actors, Mike, to your point, so.
Thank you so much.
Good question. Thank you.
Isn't Carla's voice the most calming voice? Don't you just want her to read you a bedtime story?
You stretch out on the couch there, yes. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Cassie.
Hi, Cassie. You have a question?
Yes. I actually grew up watching Carla in a lot of films like Spy Kids and Night at the Museum and Race to Witch Mountain. I was just kind of curious about how you got into like the Flaniverse and like horror films and TV shows.
That came about really because Mike was casting Gerald's Game, and someone else was cast in it and fell out quite last minute. And Bruce Greenwood, the great Bruce Greenwood, was attached already. And the movie was about to film in 2 weeks. And I got a call saying he wants to meet with very few people. He really thinks you'd be great for this, but you have to literally read it overnight and speak with him tomorrow if you're interested. And so I did. I read it, and I thought, wow, this could be either something amazing or the end of my career. There's nowhere to hide, literally or figuratively. And so I thought, well, I have to meet this filmmaker. And he was actually already in Alabama. We filmed it in Mobile, Alabama. He was scouting, and like a poisonous insect was on the ground when we were speaking, actually. He was like, oh, wow, I got to show my son. He's always fascinated. This could kill me, and it was this really funny moment. And within 3 minutes of speaking to him, I was like, this guy has such a clear vision. I want to help him serve his vision. I am in. And from the moment I read that script to the moment we were filming was 2 weeks to the day. So it was pretty crazy, but that was how that all started. So I'm a huge fan of any genre done well. And for me, in the ways that you have experienced too so much, because Malin is also so funny. And I think comedy and horror are two very specific genres in which you can tell the truth in a different way than you can in a drama, because it doesn't have to be naturalistic. It is by nature heightened. And so I wasn't a horror fan per se. I love, The Shining is one of my favorite movies. I love many horror films, but I really got into that, became a big part of my life because I love him as a filmmaker, and I love the stories that he tells and the way in which he tells them. So,
good question. Thank you. To Carla's point, I feel like, as a fan, as an outsider, that comedy, when done well, takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. And you've been in so many comedies, Malin. Talk to us a little bit about that balance between playing it straight, playing it for laughs, and yet at the same time making this feel true to the characters.
Sure. I mean, everyone has their own style of comedy, and everyone loves different types of comedy. There's some that are really outrageous, and Jim Carrey, who I adore, is very outrageous, but somehow he does it beautifully and with so much heart. And I think for me, I grew up on watching Steve Martin, who I adore, and I always feel like if comedy is grounded in something, it's so much funnier than, instead of trying to hit a punchline, letting the situation carry you and letting the situation be funny and you're reacting. And the Farrelly brothers, who I adore, who are nuts in the best way possible. The reason they love Ben Stiller so much is because of his reactions. You laugh at the reactions, and I think comedy is such a complicated, beautiful thing, and it's not easy. I would never want to stand on a stage and do stand-up. That's terrifying, and that takes so much chutzpah to get up on a stage and do that. But I do love, I love being on a set, doing comedy and having a great time and exploring, but it also takes a lot of vulnerability, and you really have to trust your directors, because if you don't, then you don't play as much, and then you start to go inside into your head, and then it's just terrible.
Start pulling back in.
Yeah, completely.
Absolutely. Hello, what is your name?
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hi, Greg. What's the question?
I have a question for Carla about your character in Fall of the House of Usher. She's very complex, and her motivations are, kind of unknowable. And I was just wondering, who do you think she is, and do you think she's good or evil or something else?
For me, she's really the hand of fate, and she's doing a job. So, I don't think she's evil at all, actually. I think she has a great curiosity about humanity. I think most of her interactions with human beings are disappointing because, when posed with, you can have everything in the world, but it will cost a lot for others, sadly, many people will take it. And so, to me, she presents very clearly to the ushers, she says it all. She says, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen. Do you want to do it? And she's not pulling any punches. She's not hiding anything. She's just giving the truth. And they take it. And then she has to execute that because it's a job. Like, she's also a hired hand, so to speak, in the sort of the nature of karma. So that's why one of the things that I love so much about her relationship with the whole situation with Lenore is that she doesn't want to take her, but she has to, because they made that deal and they know that everyone in the next generations will be affected by it. So yeah, to me, she's really the hand of fate, and the sort of what are we accountable for, and what's the ripple effect of our actions throughout the generations. And so what I love about the different incarnations of her, and she's brutal, I mean, don't get me wrong, obviously, but that she kind of gives everyone, and it was something that we spoke about at the beginning because Mike had really put some of it in there. There was a taste of it that made me really curious to say, like, maybe she gives everyone the option to be their better selves at the moment before she's going to take them. And that is really what ended up being incorporated into the script, because what's so cool about that is that she's always waiting for someone to say, oh, okay, I will change. And once in a great moon, that happens. And because that was the way, for me, otherwise she was a character that knew everything already, and then it's not very interesting. So I had to find a way that I was always listening and waiting for someone to do something unexpected.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that was perfectly summed up in your scene with Mark Hamill. He's the bad guy throughout this, and yet he doesn't take the offer. So.
And he doesn't take it, and he's the person you don't expect that from, which is so cool, which is, again, what is Mike so brilliant in his writing in that regard.
Absolutely. Hello, what is your name?
My name is Sharon.
Hi, what is your question?
Been a big fan since Spy Kids. Which world, like a TV show or movie fandom, would you most like to join if you had a choice, or that you're already aspiring to?
I have the weirdest thing, which is it's so hard for me to think about something. When something comes into my orbit, then I kind of know if it's the right thing or not. Well, I will admit that I always did want to play Catwoman. That was a character that I have always wanted to play.
You would have been great.
Thank you.
Still
maybe
can
there's
be.
exactly. Maybe there's still a world in which that can happen. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm also a huge fan of period pieces. The sort of the end of the like 1800s into the early 1900s was such a fascinating time for women. A terrible time too, but a really dramatically interesting time. So, by the way, I just saw an amazing movie that is I can highly recommend, and hasn't. I don't even know where you can find it yet. It's a Danish movie called The Girl with the Needle, and it is not an actual horror film, but it plays like a horror movie. And watching it reminded me of just sort of what I love about that period in time for women. And anyway, so I highly recommend this movie, you guys. It's amazing, and it got nominated for Best Foreign Film this year at the Academy Awards. But I think it'll come out, I'm sure, on a streamer soon. The Girl with the Needle. But that's a kind of, when I was watching it, I was thinking both of these women are extraordinary. These actresses, and the characters are so great. But yeah, I've always been, I don't know what the next thing is until it comes my way. It's just sort of the way, it's not a positive thing, but it's just sort of, I've grown to know this about myself.
Thank you.
Is there any particular universe you would like to enter?
I'd love to do a Western.
Oh, yeah.
So funny, I was going to say that too. I do love a good
to do
Western. Maybe we got to do one together.
Ride a horse and wear some chaps. But I would also love to be Jane Bond. Instead of James Bond, I would love to be Jane Bond.
Yes.
Have me some octopuses, but the opposite of that. Or both, doesn't matter.
Hey. Hello, what is your name?
Hi, I'm Alexis.
Hi, Alexis.
So for both of you, you've both played roles like that are so different from each other, which I think is the fun part about being an actor, is being able to play vastly different people. Is there a role that sticks out to you where you really got to go a little feral and like a little crazy and kind of had to like, you know, I feel like interacting in society, you have to act a certain way, and I think that's what's fun about being an actor is you get to break that. Is there one that really stands out that kind of went past the usual?
You start going through the Rolodex going, yes, to answer your question, for sure. You know what's interesting is that when you start in one genre in this business, it's really hard to fight against that grain. A lot of times, casting directors don't want to see you for anything else. So it's a big fight to get in the room to do something else. So that was always, once comedy started, that was sort of the way to go. And I really wanted to test myself out too, if I could even do anything else. But the one character that I really loved playing, which wasn't crazy or feral in that way, but Lara Axelrod in Billions, which was, she's a great, strong woman. I, in real life, am a people pleaser, and I'm really trying to say no more often. But it's hard. And with Lara, I got to play sort of my juxtaposition, where she just said, you know, F you, and anything that she felt like. And that was so freeing and so fun to play. And I'm still trying to learn from her a little bit. But yeah, it is really, really fun. And again, going back to the psychology major that I was taking university, to be able to explore people's psyche that are completely different from your own is incredibly fun and titillating.
Yeah, well, I would say I've actually gotten to do some stage work in which I have played characters that I've really had to kind of go off the emotional edge with. And 8 shows a week, it has cost me. But Eugene O'Neill's Desire Into the Elms being one of them, in which...
Guys, can I just say something here? We had done Watchmen together. Sorry, I just interrupted, but I have to say this. We've done Watchmen together. We know each other. We've become best friends. It's great. I love it. Went to see this show. I was starstruck. She was that good, you guys. I went backstage and I went, oh my God, Carla, I don't know what this feeling is, but I feel like I can't talk to you right now. That was so good. It was so, you just embodied someone completely different. It was magnificent. She's an incredible actress. It's unbelievable.
Thank you so much. Well,
truly.
Coming from you, that was also possibly because my character killed her child. So maybe you were also afraid for different reasons. She did it, though, because she was in love and she misinterpreted something, and that's sort of the horror of that story. But actually, I would say, in terms of feral, for sure. So I have had the opportunity to do some things on stage that have been terrifying in that way, in a great way, for me as an actor. But incarnating the ape in Usher was absolutely terrifying. I mean, it was one of those ones where I would have never been able to do that with people I didn't trust, because I really was like, I have to take this all the way there, and if it's too much, you need to pull me back, but I can't be the one to make that judgment. But for sure, just as you said, the act of being able to do that, to say, I'm gonna go all the way and you pull me back, is a very freeing experience, because in life that can be much more dangerous, you know?
Yes. Awesome, thank you.
Good question, thank you. Hello, we have time for just maybe 1 or 2 more, so what is your name?
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi.
So both of you have played many mothers or motherly characters, whether it's from Final Girls. Recently watched. If you haven't watched it, absolutely
great, right?
have to.
Yes, so good.
Or Olivia in Hill House. Who has been your favorite mother or motherly character to play?
Well, you just took mine. Final Girls is a baby to me. It is like my baby. I loved that film so much. It's such a great crossover of genres. It was so fun to play two characters, really, that kind of, by the end, you're going, does she know who she is? Does she not? And to step into a motherly position for Taissa Farmiga's character, and that end scene, that death scene was awesome. Betty Davis Eyes is now one of my favorite songs. I want to die to that song in real life, but not yet. Yes. But that was truly one of my favorite motherly characters. It's like you said, it's a really fun, great film. Todd Strauss-Schulson did an incredible job, and the way he shot it was beautiful. So, yeah.
Great character. I think for me, I guess when you say mom, in terms of, I have played a lot of moms, but the first one that I played when I was way too young technically for the role was Spy Kids. And so Ingrid Cortez, I was 27 when I played the role, and I was supposed to have been a spy for 10 years, and I had two kids that were like 9 and 11, so the math did not add up. So I think that, and then also a television show I did with my partner Sebastian Gutierrez called Jet. I love Jet because she is a mom who has no idea how to be a mom, and yet has this fierce, undeniable love for her daughter. And so for me, that was like such a different kind of mom to play, and I really love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, come on up. What is your name?
Hi.
Vinny.
Hi, and what is your question?
Okay, so this is about the ending of Watchmen, because the ending of the graphic novel and movie are different. Which one did you enjoy more? Because I think the ending of the movie is really awesome and epic to watch.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think that I don't know that I can say which one I liked more, but I do feel like Zack was so allegiant to the graphic novel, and he had such great respect for it, and then kind of went this way with the end in the film. And for me, it felt very organic to the film. You know, I think that's one of the things too, is when you do make a departure from a piece of material, you know, a lot of novelists are very much like, if it's going to become a movie, I don't want anything to do with it because, you know, I did my thing and now you're going to do your thing. And then some people are more involved, and obviously some people do adaptations and things like that. But this just felt like Zack. I think because we were serving, at least for me, we were serving Zack's vision. That would be the one that for me is just like, oh, that's the natural way to go because this was the film version and he was our leader.
Oh, awesome.
But that's a total personal thing.
Yeah. I agree. I think that we're just so invested and married to this script that we're a part of versus a graphic novel that we've read, and I loved it. I think it's a brilliant graphic novel. I did not know what I was getting into, and it's incredible. And I think the ending works beautifully in the graphic novel, but I also think our ending works great for the film. So yeah, there's no favorite. I just think each version serves a purpose.
Cool.
Do you have a favorite?
I really like the movie version.
Good answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
To your point, though, it takes all of these threads that kind of got dropped in the graphic novel and ties it together in a nice bow that you don't always get whenever you're adapting something. So, yeah. Any other question? It looks like they turned the light off on us, and maybe that's the time to go. All right. Have you guys had a good time this last hour? Right on. I know we have a little bit of time today. Let me come to you with a mic. That's okay, no problem. That's what we're here for, bud. Let me come to you.
Oh, is she sleeping?
Hi.
She's sleeping
What
through
is your
this?
name?
Okay, I couldn't let this end without mentioning I grew up on Son-in-Law, okay? Becca, hello. She's awake now. Oh. Okay. I would love to ask celebrities this question, especially with being in this profession for so long. Do you have a favorite fan interaction?
Good question.
Interesting.
I feel like, I think maybe because I've been doing it so long, really almost all of my life, I wouldn't be able to say one person, because to me, so much of what we do is, we have a very insular profession that people think that you're very outgoing, and some people are, or that it's something that, it involves everybody. But no, it's a really intimate experience with the same group of people every day. And then it takes usually a year for it to come out. And then finally it's out in the world. And it's like your baby is gone and you have nothing to do with how people respond to it or anything like that. And sometimes something that you loved is... Should I need to speak? Stop
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
There's a flashing light.
Oscars.
It's terrifying.
It's scary, I know, but no, it's fine.
Woo! And so basically, I really feel like it's the moment where you get to connect and see how something touches people, and moves people or scares people or whatever the thing is. And so over time, for me, that's just been kind of amazingly valuable. And there's, of course, funnier ones and weirder ones and all of that kind of stuff. But mostly I walk around thinking I'm totally anonymous until somebody says, like, hey, and I'm like, oh, gosh, right, I have this profession that I do this thing. And so I would just say that being at something like this, and I say this really from the bottom of my heart, it's a very, very special experience to be able to see how something that you love and that you've put your life into has made an impact. So, that's sort of a sappy thing to say, but it's actually true.
So sappy. No, I'm joking. You guys, honestly, the Comic-Con fans are always my favorite, just because, first of all, the interaction that we get to have with you guys, but also the true fandom, and you're all so lovely. Everyone's so nice. But I'll tell you a really funny, can I?
Absolutely.
It's flashing.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
Ignore
A fan moment gone wrong, and I was the fan. And I walked up to this actress named Marion Cotillard, who's in like Inception, and she's a beautiful French actress. I'm such a fan. And we bumped into each other at a party, and she started chatting with me. And she's like, oh my God, look at you. I was like, oh my God, look at you. So we had like a half-hour conversation, and she said to me, she goes, I'm such a fan, and I love comedy. And I was like, oh my God, I'm such a fan. Fanning out with each other. And at the very end, she goes, anyway, I loved you in Blue Crush. And I was like, Blue Crush?
No.
Oh, she thinks I'm Kate Bosworth. I didn't correct her. I was like, thank you. Yeah, it was... I love swimming with sharks. And that was it. So I was disappointed, of course, but still loved chatting with her.
Very good. Again, guys, if you've not had a chance to stop by the tables, I know we'll be wrapping up soon today. I know tomorrow you'll both be here as well. So if I didn't get to your question, if you think of something this evening, if you've not had a chance to do the photos, autographs, all of that, again, they'll be at their tables. Be sure to stop by. If nothing else, just tell them how much you appreciate them coming to Kansas City and visiting with us. I believe they want to get a quick photo with all of you guys here as well. So if we can bring the house lights up, and we'll just come to the edge of the stage, and we'll turn and face the banner behind us.